Good day, everyone, and welcome to this third lecture of the MOOC course and the last lecture related to Marvels of DH, entitled Digital Humanities and Digital Culture. In today's lecture, we will explore one of the most rapidly evolving interdisciplinary domains in contemporary academia, a field where literature, culture, computation, archives, algorithms, and human creativity intersect. Since this is the last lecture related to Marvels of DH, I need to hammer on some points I discussed in the earlier two lectures. Digital humanities is not simply about using computers in humanities classrooms. It is about fundamentally rethinking how human knowledge is created, preserved, and interpreted, circulated, and experienced in digital age. Traditionally, humanities disciplines such as literature, history, philosophy, linguistics, and cultural studies relied upon printed texts, physical archives, and linear modes of interpretation. However, with the emergence of the digital technologies, new forms of textuality, communication, authorship, and memory have appeared. Today, stories are written on social media platforms. Archives exist in cloud servers. Artificial intelligence participates in creative writing. Algorithms shape reading habits. Every human identity is itself increasingly mediated through digital interfaces. This lecture is therefore not merely technological in orientation, it is philosophical, cultural, ethical, and interpretative. By the end of this lecture, you should be able to understand the meaning and scope of digital humanities, differentiate between digitization and digital scholarship, examine the relationship between technology and culture, understand concepts like e-literature, platform studies, digital archives, gaming cultures, and AI-assisted storytelling. Critically evaluate the future of humanities in the age of artificial intelligence. I would like to ask one question. How many hours a day do you spend interacting with digital platforms, directly or indirectly? You need to think of that. This slide, therefore, introduces the foundational dimension of humanities, digital humanities. The first thing we must understand is that DH represents a paradigm shift in academic inquiry. It's about paradigm shift. It's a very important part of digital humanities. This is what I have been impressing upon in these lectures. In a way, this slide talks of digital culture. Notice the statement. Digital humanities is not merely the use of computers to do humanities work. The distinction is extremely important. Typing a thesis on Microsoft Word is not digital humanities. Scanning manuscripts in PDF format is not sufficient either. Digital humanities begins when computational methods transform the nature of interpretation itself. Let us examine the four components mentioned here. The first one is humanities computing. This is the foundational stage. Historically, humanities scholars began using computers for linguistic analysis, corpus studies, concordances, and archival cataloging. For example, counting recurring themes in Shakespeare, for example, mapping word frequencies in novels, creating searchable digital archives. This stage is largely focused on assistance and organization. The second is e-humanities. E-humanities expands beyond computing into digital communication networks. It studies online identities, social media structures, social media cultures, digital communities, virtual interaction. Human experiences itself become networked. The third aspect can be interdisciplinary core. DH is deeply interdisciplinary. An English scholar today may collaborate with data scientists, programmers, graphic designers, archivists, linguists. This collaboration transforms the humanities from isolated textual reading into collaborative digital ecosystems. The fourth can be technological intensity. Digital humanities increasingly involves data visualization, AI-assisted analysis, machine learning, metadata structures, algorithmic interpretation. The humanities scholar is no longer merely a reader, but also a curator, analyst, designer, and sometimes even a coder. So we can ask such questions. Can algorithms interpret literature? This is one of the central debate in DH. Can a machine detect irony? Can AI understand grief in poetry? Can data replace interpretation? Digital humanities does not eliminate traditional reading. Rather, it supplements and complicates itself. In the first two lectures, I have talked of the marvels in everyday life and English studies respectively. One of the most important aspects in ethical dimensions of digital humanities is accessibility. Technology is meaningful only when it becomes inclusive. This slide highlights the foundational accessibility of tools and standards. NVDA, JAWS, and the W3C or Y, WCAG guidelines, each playing a distinct role in making digital content navigable and usable for people with disabilities. NVDA is a free open source screen reader for Windows. Emphasize that its cost-free nature makes it a realistic option for students, small labs, and community projects that lack funding or commercial assistive technology. Practically, NVDA reads interface elements, document texts, and web content aloud. It supports common keyboard navigation patterns. That means when we build a site or a digital edition, testing with NVDA helps reveal accessibility gaps that visual checks won't catch. Note also, its active community and plugin ecosystem. Many developers contribute add-ons that improve support or for specific file types or platforms. The second is JAWS, Freedom Scientific. JAWS is the leading professional screen reader and is often used in the institutional enterprises environments. Point out that it generally offers more advanced features and customization than many free alternatives, which is why some power users prefer it. For complex web content, interactive visualization, advanced ARIA patterns, or rich web apps, JAWS supports can be a good benchmark for professional level accessibility. Keep in mind the cost and licensing overhead. When planning a project, factor in whether project stakeholder needs training or access to such commercial tools. The third one is Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, that is W3CY, WAI. WCAG is not a tool but a global standard that defines how to make web content perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. Treat it as the specification we aim to meet rather than a piece of software we run. Explain briefly why WCAG matters. It provides testable success criteria, A, AA, AAA, that guide design, development, and evaluation. When a DH project claims to be accessible, WCAG provides the framework for verifying that claim. Mention that it's important to mention that combining automated checks with manual testing, including keyboard only navigation test and testing with screen readers, is essential. WCAG helps you know what to test. Together, these items form a practical stack. Standards to design against and screen readers, NVDA and JAWS to test with. Relying on now without others is risky. A standards guide design. But real users and assistive tech reveal how that design behave in practice. For project planning, allocate time for accessibility testing with at least one free and one professional screen reader, and use WCAG criteria to set acceptance threshold. This approach reduces later retrofitting costs and improves inclusion from the start. So this is a very important aspect of inclusivity, and which we need to cover under the marvels of digital humanities. We now move into one of the most exciting areas of digital humanities, that is electronic literature, also known as e-literature, also known as e-lit. Electronic literature refers to literary works that are born digital. I hope you understood it. These works cannot exist fully in print form because their meaning depends upon interactivity, hyperlinks, animation, user participation, and multimedia integration. Digital lighting is also very important here. Notice the reference to Twitter and WhatsApp literature. Digital writing changes literary form itself. Character limits influence style. Abbreviations reshape language. Memes become narrative device. Literature becomes fragmented, instantaneous, and participatory. It's very interesting. So, so the fiction is interactive fiction. Traditional literature is linear, but interactive fiction allows readers to make choices, alter narratives, outcomes, participate in storytelling. The reader becomes co-author. Listen to it. The reader becomes the co-author. This challenges traditional notion of authorship. And likewise, you can think of literary bots and AI. AI assistants like Siri, Alexa, Cortana are now conversational entities. Increasingly, AI-generated poetry, fiction, scripts are becoming common. This raises fascinating questions. Can machine be creative? What is authorship in the AI age? Is creativity uniquely human? If an AI writes a poem that emotionally moves you, does it matter whether a human wrote it? This question lies at the heart of contemporary digital aesthetics. The next slide is related to digital culture, metaverse, and NFTs. Digital culture studies how social structure transforms within virtual environments. Our identities today increasingly exists simultaneously in physical spaces or digital spaces. The metaverse refers to immersive virtual environments where people interact through avatars. It combines virtual reality, social networking, digital economies, gaming ecosystems. In such environments, work, education, commerce, art, socialization can occur virtually. NFT stands for non-fungible token. NFTs use blockchain technology to establish ownership for digital objects. This has transformed digital art, music, collectibles, literary production. An important humanity questions emerges. What does ownership mean in a world of infinitely reproducible digital objects? We can also talk of humanities informatics. This involves studying data structure shape. This involves studying how data structures shape historical memory. Which histories get digitized? Which languages dominate databases? How are archives classified? Digital archives are never neutral. They reflect power structure. If history increasingly survives through servers and algorithms, who controls cultural memory? I will ask it again. If history increasingly interprets through servers and algorithms, who controls cultural hegemony? Cultural memory. The next slide is related to, which is a part of digital culture, that is game theory, gamification. Gaming is no longer merely an entertainment. It's now a major cultural, educational, economic force. Gamification means applying game mechanics to non-game environments. Examples: learning apps, fitness trackers, reward systems, educational platforms. Gamification increases engagement through points, badges, competition, progress tracking. Augmented reality is related to gamification. Augmented reality overlays digital information onto physical reality. Examples include Pokemon Go, AR museum tours, medical visualization, interactive classrooms. AR creates what scholars call liminal spaces. These are hybrid spaces between physical and digital realities. So, gaming culture, gaming communities develop unique vocabularies, rituals, social hierarchies, identities. Digital humanities studies gaming as legitimate cultural phenomenon. So you can ask question: can video games be considered literature or art? This is another paradigm shift. Archiving and data mining. Human civilization has always depended upon archives. What changes in the digital era is scale, speed, searchability, preservation methods. Digital cataloging, if you talk of that, we can think of first we can think of traditional libraries which used systems like Dewey Decimal Classification. Now, digital archives now use metadata, tags, search algorithms, linked database. This transforms retrieval mechanism. Data mining involves discovering patterns within massive data sets. In literary studies, scholars may analyze thousands of novels simultaneously. Stylistic patterns, sentiment trends, historical language shifts. This approach is sometimes called distant reading, a term associated with Franco Moretti. This is ethically complex. Some questions emerge here. Can data records be altered? Who authenticates archives? Can AI-generated text distort history? The digital archive is powerful but vulnerable. If in the digital age, can anything be truly deleted? We need to understand this also. Software studies and critical codes. This slide takes us deeper into theoretical dimensions. Software is not neutral. Platforms influence behavior, communication, attention spans, cultural consumption. For example, TikTok algorithm shape aesthetic trends. Streaming platforms influence narrative structures. This fascinating field treats computer code as cultural text. So this comes under critical code studies. Code contains assumptions, biases, and ideologies. Algorithm may unconsciously reproduce gender bias, racial bias, linguistic hierarchy. Thus, code itself becomes readable and interpretable. There's another area that the platform studies. Different platforms enable different forms of creativity. For example, Instagram privileges visuals. Twitter privileges brevity. YouTube privileges audiovisual narration. Technology shapes literary and cultural expression. So we can ask a question, do social media platforms influence how we think? We need to explain it. Platforms do not merely host culture, they actively structure it. Digital humanities is an evolving field, yet still it's expanding. It's constantly evolving. Unlike older disciplines with fixed boundaries, DH remains fluid. Continuous evolution, every technological shift shapes DH. AI, virtual reality, blockchain, machine learning, generative media. So tech literacy is very important. Humanities scholars increasingly require technological literacy, not necessarily advanced or advanced programming, but critical technological awareness. Further, humanities scholars may need to understand metadata, algorithms, digital ethics, interface cultures. Eventually, the term digital may disappear as a separate category. Digital methods may simply become part of the mainstream humanities practice. Nevertheless, we need to emphasize, despite technological intensity, the core mission remains deeply human. Interpretation, empathy, ethics, meaning-making. Technology, therefore, should expand human understanding, not replace humanity. So in this slide synthesizes some major ideas discussed so far. Technology must remain inclusive. Digital awareness, digital literature is interactive and evolving. DH combines interpretation with computational methods. A student should begin engaging with digital archives, AI tools, corpus analysis, interactive media, while maintaining a critical awareness. Now, I request the students and participants to choose one digital platform they use daily, analyze how it shapes communication behavior, reflect on whether it democratizes or controls expression. The references, this is a slide for references. As we conclude, let us remember that digital humanities is ultimately about preserving the human within the technological Technology changes rapidly, but questions about meaning, identity, ethics, creativity, memory, and justice remain profoundly human concerns. Thank you for your patience and participation. I leave you with a closing question which you must try to find an answer to. Will the future humanities scholar also need to become digital architect of culture? Let us ponder on this question. Thank you very much for being a part of this series of MOOC course. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.